All right, let's go down to Miami. Mike Griffith with us now on the Pepsi hotline as he joins us from Miami for Georgia and Michigan. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Doing great, guys.
Thanks a lot. Mike with us, by the way, on the Pepsi hotline from DawgNation, SEC Network. You see him there. Also, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is part of DawgNation there, at Mike Griffith 32 on Twitter. Kirby continues to answer JT Daniels' Stetson Bennett questions. I think another one today, if I'm not mistaken. Am I just seeing it more on Twitter, reading it more, or does he continue to be asked a lot about this?
I don't think he got asked about it today. I thought yesterday was
Okay.
like a preemptive strike press conference so that he wouldn't be asked about it today. There's really not much more to say. Kirby believes in Stetson Bennett. That's a source of division among the fan base, not on the staff. Kirby's the guy. He's the unquestioned leader, and what Kirby says goes. But the notion that it's just crazy to question it is incorrect. I mean, I know Stetson Bennett has said that the people on Twitter aren't experts, but you know what? The people in the NFL are, and they don't want to see him. And the people that offer scholarships at other SEC schools are experts, and they didn't offer him a scholarship. And his own coaches had him as a four-stringer just a year and a half ago. So it's not some crazy notion to question whether or not a walk-on quarterback can win a national championship. It's unprecedented. And in fact, it wouldn't be very logical if you didn't question the quarterback position after the last performance against Alabama. So I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating that this Georgia football team is in the college football playoff. They've ridden a great defense throughout the season. Certainly Alabama was able to expose that with Bryce Young's outstanding play. Not sure Michigan is going to be able to expose that secondary. I don't know that the Wolverines have the perimeter speed. They certainly don't have a quarterback like Bryce Young who does. So it makes for a very intriguing matchup, as I do think Georgia is still a bit staggered and not sure how they're going to come out of the corner when the bell rings, whereas Michigan's got a lot of momentum coming into this contest.
You and I watched one of the worst protection games in my lifetime when Alabama couldn't protect Bryce down in the Iron Bowl. This Michigan team can get after the quarterback. How do you think the great Georgia offensive line can hold up against those defensive ends?
Well, I don't know how great the offensive line really is. I know they run the ball a lot. I know they hadn't really been asked to do a lot before the Alabama game, and Alabama was able to sack them 3 times once they were able to get Georgia behind and put them in down and distance situations. So I think it has a lot to do with Georgia's success running the football. I think for both teams, it's going to be really important to stay on schedule, stay ahead of the chains, stay out of those obvious pass situations. Because as you said, Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson, this is the number 1 overall projected pick in the NBA and NFL draft. And Ajabo is a guy that's projected number 10. So they have some dynamic defensive ends. And, of course, Georgia's front 7 has been celebrated all year. Now, Alabama was able to get the ball out quickly and run enough and effectively enough that Georgia didn't have any sacks in that game. So to your point, I think we watched Auburn record 7 sacks, and Alabama gets shut out for 3 quarters. And then 1 week later, Georgia's dominant defense got no sacks, and Bama had 31 points in 3 quarters. So it just goes to show you how important matchups are and how quickly things can change in 1 week. Now we're looking at 3 weeks. So really, really hard to project what's going to happen Friday night at 7:30 in Hard Rock Stadium.
Mike Griffith is with us on the Pepsi hotline at Mike Griffith 32, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, DawgNation. You see him on the SEC Network as well. I want to ask you about Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart, because Kirby has done this before in Tuscaloosa, where he had the Georgia job, as you know, Mike, and continued to coach for Alabama. Do you get the feel that with Dan Lanning, Kirby, because of his experience, knew exactly how to handle this situation with Dan Lanning being the Oregon coach and also now coaching Georgia in this game and perhaps in the national championship game?
Yeah, we saw similar Kevin Shear in 2017. I mean, I think this is becoming more a part of college football where guys are getting jobs and coaching through bowl games. So the fact that, Will Muschamp is over there and Glenn Schumann, of course, Kirby has his hands deep into the defense as well. I think Dan is still going to call the plays. I think they're going to try and keep things as normal as possible, but certainly Dan's been making some hires and has some time with Oregon on the clock. I mean, he's the Ducks head coach, but I don't think that's going to be a factor in this football game.
When you look at the Jim Harbaugh dynamic and how this season has played out, you've watched a lot of college football over the years. Very few people can get behind the eight ball as much as Harbaugh was at Michigan, and then turn it around and have this kind of success. Usually, it leads to you leaving or getting fired. How impressive are you with this Michigan team and what Harbaugh did this year?
Well, I mean, you keep knocking on the door and eventually you break through. I mean, was it, I don't know what to say about the Ohio State and Ryan Day. And, if the temperature is 30 degrees warmer in Ann Arbor, if the game's played in, there's a lot of factors that go into this. I mean, Michigan, it's not like Michigan's dropped off and turned into a horrible program. That's never been the case. They've got great talent. They're always pretty good. Of course, we're all on the periphery and we notice how they do against Ohio State. And so, they haven't beat Ohio State since 2011. So, but not all was bad. I mean, Michigan, won some football games and beat some good teams. I think they beat Florida not too long ago in a bowl. So I don't think that the program had ever really fallen off. At the same time, I don't necessarily want to say it was by default. I don't want to say, Ohio State, just wasn't a typical Ohio State. But, you do wonder a little bit. I wonder a little bit, really, about college football this year. I mean, and I'll throw this out there, and I don't want to insult Alabama. I don't want to insult Georgia or Michigan or Cincinnati, but do any of us believe any of these four football teams would have beaten 2018 Clemson, 2019 LSU, or 2020 Alabama? I don't.
No. Yeah, and I agree with you. And that was going to be my next question was Alabama fans seem to be in a very comfortable place after what happened in Atlanta. And you've watched this Alabama team all year long. There is a helter and a skelter to what they've put on tape this year. Do you believe Alabama can do it for 8 more quarters and win another national championship?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I think great quarterback play is the constant that I've seen from national championship teams of late. Now, this year could prove to be an outlier, but in Bryce Young, you've got a really special guy there. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I mean, it goes beyond that. I mean, you put Bryce Young behind what Mac Jones had last year, and it would have been even more devastating. I mean, this kid had the mobility, the ability to keep the eyes down. If this is the disciplined version, if Johnny Manziel ever would have got his act together and showed discipline, it would look a lot like Bryce Young. I mean, he's just dynamic. And I think Alabama fans should feel good and feel confident. I mean, that's why Nick Saban gets paid $10 million a year because he is at the forefront of college football, because he is the best mind in the game. He is the innovator. I mean, he's the master crew chief for all those Talladega fans. Nick's always got a little something extra under the hood. He's always up on the latest technology. He always finds those cubic dollars in the engine, right? I mean, he's just a guy that always seems to have Alabama one step ahead of the pack. And right when you think you've caught him, is myself and many others, I said Kirby Smart had Nick right where he wanted him, and I think he did. But having Nick where you wanted him and beating him are two different things. And so, yes, Alabama is the prohibitive favorite. I think there's some internal bleeding at Georgia. We'll see if they can get it together in time to beat Michigan. They should, on paper. I mean, this Georgia team's going to have 12 or 13 guys drafted. And I know that makes you fall out of your chair, but stop and look at it. There's 3 projected first-rounders right now. That doesn't count the 8 Senior Bowl invites that they have. Typically, Senior Bowl invites get drafted, and then there's 2 or 3 other underclassmen that are recently graded out as having draftable grades. So, I mean, this is an incredibly talented Georgia team, and yet there are questions in the secondary, and I dare say at quarterback. And again, I'm not trying to hate on this guy. People take it as a personal criticism, but at the end of the day, Georgia was the only team to offer Stetson Bennett a scholarship, and Kirby may very well end up looking like the smartest guy in the room. But if he loses with JT Daniels on the bench, then he'll look probably the opposite of that.
All right, he is Mike Griffith at Mike Griffith 32 on Twitter is where you go to follow him. Read him at the AJC and DawgNation. See him on the SEC Network. Mike, thank you so much for the time. Always great talking with you.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, take care. Mike Griffith with us on the Pepsi Hotline.